Hi my loves, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Moyo and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this shirt dress with bishop neck. You can't really see it clearly because of my hair, but yes, it's there. Can you see that? So please make sure to watch to the end and please subscribe to my channel and also like this video. Bye guys. So first I went ahead to fold this amount of paper, which is about 1.5 inch allowance. This is going to serve as my buttonhole allowance. Next, I'm going to go ahead and take my horizontal measurement. So the first thing I'm taking is my chest line, which is usually my back measurement plus 1.5 first of all. So my back measurement is 7.5 plus 1.5 is going to give me 9. So I'm going to mark 9 on that point on my paper. I'm also going to mark it on another point on my paper. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to move on to the waistline, and normally my waist is 15.5, but I'm going to add half inch for allowance. So I'm going to be marking 16 for my waistline. I'm going to draw my shoulder to hip, and I'm using 26 inches. So I'm also going to mark it on different points on my paper. Then I'm going to be using my ruler to make straight lines. So I'm going to grab my ruler and draw my straight lines. Once I'm done with this, I'm just going to label my hip, my waist, my armhole line, and my shoulder line. Then I'm going to be using my tape rule to take my back measurement. My back measurement is 7.5, so I'm just going to be taking the exact 7.5 on the shoulder line as well as the armhole line. So like you can see, I just marked these dots. Then I'm going to be using my ruler to connect the 2 points that I've just made. For my armhole curve, I'm going to be using a curved part of my pattern master like you guys can see, and I'm just going to be drawing this curve. Next, I'm going to move on to the shoulder area, and I'm going to first mark 3 inches. This is my standard. I'm just going to mark that right there. Next, I'm going to come over to the top of my shoulder like this, and I'm going to mark 1 inch. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to connect this 1 inch to the 3-inch mark that we made earlier, and there we have it, our shoulder slope. Now I'm going to come over to my armhole area, and I'm going to take my bust measurement round, divide by 4. I'm going to get 8.5, so I'm just going to mark that. Then I'm also going to be adding 2.5 inch seam allowance. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to take the entire length that I have there, and I have about 11 inches there. So whatever I have there, I'm just going to subtract 1 inch. That's how I'm going to get my waist area, because this is a free top, okay? So you're not actually marking your exact waist. So 11 minus 1 is 10. So I'm just going to take 10 on my waistline, and then for my hip line, I'm going to take my hip divided by 4. Now my hip is 39, so if I divide 39 by 4, I'm going to get 9.75, very close to 10. Then I'm going to now add 4 inch allowance here, not the same 2.5 that we added for the bust area. Once we're done, I'm just going to be using my ruler to connect my point. Now pay attention to when you are connecting your waist to hip. Of course you want it to look nice and smooth, so just be very careful and make sure that your curve is nice. Whatever you're doing, make sure that it is nice as you do it. Now for the base of my top, I'm going to add 1 into the total of what we have on the hip area, and I'm going to mark that. Then I'm going to connect my hip to the base of my top. I went over to the base of my top and I took 1.5 inch like you guys can see, and then I marked this line like this. The essence of this is to give our top a little bit of shape so that our top doesn't come out looking weird. Once I'm done with that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to cut my shape out. The next thing we want to do is to cut our neckline, and for my neck I'm going to be using the width to be 2.5 like you guys can see, because I'm a size 8. I'm not that big at all. Then I'm just going to go ahead and extend my line once I'm done, and from this line I'm now going to take my actual neckline measurement. So I'm going to be making the markings for the front and the back, and for the back I'm going to be using 1 inch, and for the front I'll be using 2.5. Once I'm done with this, I'm just going to connect to the initial points that we made, and I'm going to draw my curves because I'm going for a brown neckline. Next, we are going to come over to the shoulder line like so. We're going to mark about half of the armhole line, which is 4 inches. As you can see, it was there, we have 4 inches now. Then we're going to go in by 3/4 of an inch. The essence of this is for fitting. Your back is wider than your front, and that is why we're doing this, so that your dress just fits very well. Guys, only cut where you see me cut. So I'm going to cut the smaller part of my neckline, and then we're going to move on to cutting on the fabric. This pattern that you're seeing is for both the front and the back, so we don't need any special pattern for the back. So we're leaving all these places I'm tapping on, okay? And this is going to be on fold. So guys, this is the material that I'm using for this project. I got it from a fabric store, and I think it's one of all those bale materials, but you can also use crepe for this. Just find a crepe that is shaky and that is not chiffon. You get something between chiffon and crepe. Crepe is too thick, chiffon is too light. So I literally just cut out the amounts that I'll be needing, and I placed it on fold. I folded it into 2, and I just cut it out like you guys can see. So all you need to do, guys, is just to follow what you have cut on your paper. I always like to cut on my paper because you can be rest assured that your cutting is not going to move. Everything is just going to stay in place. But if you go and say, okay, you want to mark on your fabric directly, you're gonna cry because it's gonna move. But like this, it's safer. And that is why I prefer using this. So guys, we're done cutting, and this is what our back looks like. This is what yours is also supposed to look like. I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to grab my pattern again. Now we're going to be cutting the remaining portion that we didn't cut earlier. That's the neck area and also the armhole area, because we're moving on to cutting the front right now. The next thing is to cut the opening in front. Then I'm going to take 7 inches. If you don't want yours to be that deep, then you can take 6 inches. So I just extended my 7-inch mark like you guys can see. Then I opened my fold, and on the point of that fold, I'm going to come in by 3/4 of an inch like so. Then I'm going to just connect it. So you guys should just connect it like you can see in this video. I'm just going to go ahead and extend the line. I want to make like a slight curve, but not too much of a curve. So once I'm done with that, I'm just going to cut it out, and we're done with our front. The next thing we want to do now is to grab our fabric, and then when we're cutting the front, you have to open this flap up completely. So we're going to be cutting it out like this on our material. So I went ahead to cut my front part off camera, but if I place my pattern on it, we're going to get the exact same thing. So we're done now with cutting our front piece. Now we want to cut a facing for the parts where the buttons are going to enter, because remember that we only have 1.5 inch allowance for the zipper area. So we're just going to be extending it a little like this. From that fold point, you can just add about 1/2 inch and just cut it out like you can see me doing. If you need a reference, then you can use your pen or whatever you are using to take your pattern. You can use that to mark it, but I had a gauge in mind, so that is why I was cutting like you can see me cut. So once we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut on the same material, because we want a little bit of uniformity and we want our dress to look good on the inside as well. So once we're done cutting on the material, this is what it looks like. Okay, I also went ahead to cut interfacing. The interfacing I'm using here is the paper gum, and I cut 2 of these Also for my main fabric, I cut two, that is one for the left, one for the right. So I just went ahead and I ironed my interfacing on the fabric that we cut out, and I adjusted it to the shape of the interfacing. Everything is fine and good. The next thing we're going to do is to grab the two front pieces that we have, and I'm going to get the front side of the material. Then I'm going to place this strap that I have. I'm going to place it right side to right side on the front fabric, and also for the other side as well. I'm going to repeat the same thing. Next, I'm just going to pin my facing to the front piece using pins. Once I'm done with this, I'm just going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew. Once we're done sewing, we want to notch to make our folding very, very neat. So I'm just going to go ahead and notch on those parts where there is like a little bit of curve, and I'm also going to repeat it on the other side of the dress as well. Once we're done with that, we're going to give it an understitch. Some people call it stop stitch, some people say it's understitch, but you guys should understand what I'm saying, that we're just trying to give it a nice stitch so that the sewing is going to lay properly. So this is my result. Once I'm done with this, I'm just going to turn it over to the other side. You can see it looks really, really nice. And once we're done ironing, all these things, they're going to rest. Now when I'm sewing, neatness is very, very important to me. So I'm going to grab my hemming gum and I'm going to use this to finish up the facing that we have just made. So all you need to do is just to fold it once, okay, and then you're going to sew your hemming gum on it carefully like that. So from the beginning to the end, you're folding once and then you're placing your hemming gum, and you're going to do this on both sides of the front. And once we are back, this is the result. So guys, this is what we're looking like on both sides. Now to melt our hemming gum, we're just going to use a hot steam iron. So steam iron is the best when you're sewing because it doesn't leave all these stupid marks on your dress. So I'm just going to go ahead to the iron and we're going to iron this down with a steam iron, and it is going to lay nice and flat. So once we're done ironing, this is our result. And if we turn it to the other side, that's the front part of the top, this is what it looks like. I like it. Next, we're just going to grab the back of the dress that we already cut. Then I'm going to align the shoulders together, and then we're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to join the shoulders first. So I'm just going to set this aside. Then we're going to move on to cutting the sleeve for our top. And cutting my sleeve is really simple. So my material is by 60 here, so I'm going to match the two salvage hem together, making it 30 when it is folded. Then I'm going to match that folded area with the other side, like you guys can see. Once I'm done, I'm just going to go ahead and take my sleeve measurement straight on this. There's no need to do too much. So the first thing I want to do is to get the length of my sleeve, and normally the length of my sleeve is 22, 23, but I'm going to measure more because I want it to be a bit longer than my normal sleeve, so that it gives that flowy look. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and cut out the shape of my sleeve. So anyhow you cut your sleeve is just fine. You just make sure that it has the shape of a sleeve. Next, I'm going to go ahead and slit the parts where we folded open, and I'm also going to cut out the excess. We're also going to cut out the remaining excess when we're sewing. Then I'm going to come over to the middle points on my sleeve and I'm going to notch it so that this aligns properly with the shoulder area. Then I'm going to come over here and grab just two pieces, and I'm going to cut about 1/2 inch. I'm already used to it, that's why I'm doing it. So make sure you measure yours and cut it out. So this part I'm cutting is what we attach to the front. You can see I went ahead to notch it again, so when I'm sewing it's going to give this illusion that the front is smaller on the shoulder area and the back is wider, because that's the way it actually is. And this is one of the things that guarantees better fitting for dresses. Next, I'm going to grab the body of our dress that we already made, and I'm going to open the shoulder joining area up. Then I'm going to grab my sleeve that we just cut and the middle parts that we notched earlier, I'm going to match it with the middle parts of my top. And remember, the front part is going to be where we notched, so where we notched on the sleeve is going to match with the front part that we cut earlier. Can you guys remember? Okay, so next I'm just going to align this like this, and I'm going to head over to the sewing machine. And so as you can see, we have excess. We're going to trim that off later. Next, I'm just going to match my sleeve on my armpit area together like this. As you can see, I have this excess, which is totally fine. When I'm done sewing at the end of the day, I'm going to, sew the body of the area by like 1/2 inch, and also I'm going to sew the sleeve as well. But before we do that, we want to trim off the excess that we have. So I'm just going to use my scissors to trim this excess off a little bit. So we still want to have something like a very free sleeve, so the cut is just going to be very, very little. Okay, that's literally all we are cutting. And then we're going to go over to the sewing machine and just join with about 1/2 inch. So guys, I did that for both sides of my dress, and this is what it looks like. The dress is coming together nicely. Next, I'm just going to align this properly for you guys to see. The next thing we are going to do is to make our collar. Now, to make our collar, I'm just going to place my tape like you guys can see. Then I'm going to measure around the neckline area. So you want to get the exact measurement there. And what I have here is very close to 16. So I'm just going to divide that by 2. Then I'm going to grab a fresh paper. I cut this out of a big paper. I always like to use papers because you can do anything you like, you can maneuver. Then remember the measurements on our neckline. Let's say we're using 7.75 because I can't really remember what I used. So I'm just going to use my tape rule to measure that on my paper. Okay, so I'm going to mark it on this side and on the other side as well. Then I'm going to draw a straight line to connect the point. Once I'm done, I'm just going to cut that out. Okay, very easy. You can use your scissors if you don't know how to cut with your ruler. Next, we're going to go straight into measuring the height of our collar, and I want mine to be 2.75 so that when I'm done, it's going to be about 1.5 thereabouts or something. I don't want it to be too long, so I'm just going to measure 2.75 on that side, and I'm going to measure it on the other side as well. Once I'm done, I'm also going to be using my ruler to cut. Now we're moving on to the slash and spread method, and I'm just going to gauge. If you like, you can use about 2 inches distance, but yes, that's what I'm just doing. I'm just going to mark this on different points on my paper. Then I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut. But when you're cutting, don't cut through. Remember guys, I've done the slash method. Now it's time to do the spread method. I would have gone ahead to do it straight on my fabric, but I want you guys to see clearly. So as you can see, I grabbed a new pattern paper and I'm going to open up this one that we just did. So I've slashed, and the next thing to do is to spread. Now when I'm spreading, I like to secure using tapes. So I got sellotape here and I'm just going to secure the starting point. Please note that the starting points should meet the paper. Okay, just secure it the way you see me doing that. Then I'm going to open this up. When you're opening it up, please make sure to open it in a C format because our neck is curved. If you look at our neck, so you also want to curve this out to form like a semicircle or C, whatever. Just make sure it is curved. Follow my step. I am just going to go ahead and use my pen to outline the parts that I just curved. So I'm just going to curve it out like that, and once I'm done doing that, I'm going to use my scissors to cut it out. Then I'm going to go ahead and take the entire measurement I have there. Then the only thing that I need is what I'm going to be marking, and also I'm going to add a little bit of allowance, say 1/2 inch allowance or a little above that. Then what is remaining, the excess, I'm going to cut it off from the down part as well as the upside. So I'm going to just mark those 2 points, then I'm going to connect and I'm going to cut. Now we're going to move on to shaping the part of our collar that is going to come out. I'm just going to give it a little curve because I don't want it to have this sharp look. I'm going to use my scissors to cut. Then for the parts that we slashed earlier and that we used sellotape to attach, I'm just going to remove that. And guys, this is what we have. This is our bishop collar, and now it's time to cut on the fabric. If you pay close attention to what I'm doing, these parts, that other part, I'm going to make sure it touches the part of my fabric that is on fold. Mind you, I folded this material into two. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut the collar out, like you guys can see. So when I'm done cutting this one, I'm also going to cut another one because this is just one fabric on fold. So we need one fabric and another one to, turn it, and we have to use the same fabric, so make sure to do that. Next, I went ahead to grab my paper gum. That is what it is called. It's an interfacing, and I'm going to be attaching this to my bishop collar so that my bishop collar is going to stand. So I just folded this into four, so I have two pieces already. I don't need to be cutting it twice. Then I'm going to use my already made pattern to cut out on my paper gum. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to grab my fabric that I already cut, and I'm going to attach the interfacing to the fabric. I used an iron to attach my interfacing to my fabric, and once I was done, I literally just aligned my two facings together, right sides to right side. Then I went over to the sewing machine, but I kind of lost the clip, so I'm just going to explain what I did. So I pinned both of them first so that they can stay properly. Then I went ahead to sew a little bit on top so that I can easily turn over, but I didn't sew round my collar. So I just sewed that part that I'm going to be turning, like you guys can see, just a little bit, and I ended it there. Then for this part, I literally just folded my neck area, that side. I folded it once, then I sewed my hemming gum on top of it. The essence of this is that so that when we are sewing our collar, our bishop collar is going to come out very, very neat. So that's why I always do this step. And I feel like this is very, very beginner friendly. If you are new to sewing, you can make absolutely nice collar without even stressing yourself. So guys, follow my step. We are going to just grab our collar and we are going to align them properly like this, and we're going to find the midpoints and notch. The essence of this notching is to align this with the main fabric. I'm just cutting off the excess that I have here. Then I'm going to grab my main dress and I'm going to also do the same step. I'm going to match the center front together, and I'm going to get the mid part of the back and notch it as well. Once I'm done notching this, I'm going to align the main fabric with the collar that we did earlier. I'm going to do right side to right side like this, and I'm going to pin it down using my office pin. Then I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and we're just going to follow the sewing like this. If you look, I have a little excess, which is fine. I'm just going to do that on the other side as well. Once I was done sewing, this is what it looks like. Remember that we have not closed the part that curves on our bishop collar, so I'm just going to lay my bishop collar like this, and I'm going to go over to the sewing machine and I'm just going to complete the curve on my machine. Okay, this is the look, guys. This is the final look. This is what you should aim for. So it's on the sewing machine that you are going to do it, and then you are going to trim off the excess once you are done, so that you are going to get your sharp edges. Then we are going to turn it to the other side. Now if you turn it to the other side, it is going to come out very nicely. And remember that there is hemming gum on the other part, the part that is inside, so by the time we iron, everything is going to stay nice and flat. And once it stays nice and flat, we can now go ahead to sew it on the right side wherever we want, and our stitches
are going to be nice and smooth. So see what I'm doing here. You're just going to ensure to tuck all the parts that can come out. You're going to ensure to tuck it in, okay, and then you're going to iron. Use a steam iron when ironing so that your hemming gum is going to stay put. Look at how it's coming together nicely. So once you are done ironing, this is what it's going to look like. So for an extra layer of protection, you need to sew from the right side. Just sew like that on the right side so that your hemming gum will not move, because hemming gum is not very strong. It moves after the first wash. So guys, this is the end of it. For my buttons, I just took it to the market and they did it professionally with a machine. There's a special machine for that. So if you don't have the machine, don't worry, just take it to the market and they're going to have it done for you. And that is the end of this video. Just in case you're wondering, this is how I mark my buttonhole allowance. You can use between 2.5 to 3 inches for the gap between your buttons. Guys, this is our finished look. I really hope you guys love it as much as I do. People also love this dress on me. Like each time I wear it, they're always like they love it. So I feel like you should totally try it out. And if you end up trying it out, don't forget to tag me. I would love to see your creations. Thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye guys.